Well, welcome everybody. Another really great episode of Playing with Perspective, the Suspended Animation Podcast. And I have a lovely guest here, Kathleen Ann. How are you, Kathleen?
Hey, I'm feeling fantastic. Thanks so much.
Very good. And as I mentioned, you're looking well. It's very color coordinated as well. And we can hear you loud and clear. But before we go further, I just want to give the audience a bit of an insight into who Kathleen is.
Yeah, do that.
Kathleen is an international award-winning marketing coach and author. Kathleen believes it's vital to continue to stretch and grow if you want to build a successful business. She specializes in money mindset strategies, as well as marketing strategies for service-based small business owners, such as coaches, consultants, trainers, wellness practitioners, client-based, heart-centered entrepreneurs. Kathleen works on one-on-one with clients and conducts workshops as well here in Sydney. And today we're going to be chatting about a very, very interesting topic, and a topic that I'm always finding myself grappling with, and that's how to charge for your product or your service, the perception it creates, and everything that goes along with it. So it's going to be a really interesting episode. And before I jump into some questions for Kathleen, I thought I'd hand it over to Kathleen to kind of give us a little bit of a intro into who she is, what she does, and then we're going to get into some nuts and bolts. So welcome, Kathleen, over to you.
Hey, so thanks. I will just introduce myself because I've been around a little while. You can see by the grey stripes in my hair. They're natural, not enhanced. So I've been around the block a few times, I think I like to say. So really, I was never intending to start a business. That was not on my radar. But some decades ago now, I got what I call the Don't Come Monday invitation from my corporate position. And I went, woo, they're fantastic. I was actually on my way overseas the following week for a 5-week holiday.
Oh, boy, perfect timing.
Perfect timing. I didn't come back to that job. So while I was away, I didn't think about anything about work or what I might do when I returned. I really just wanted to, just have a bit of time out and let it all just percolate along. So when I came back, I actually bought a set of golf clubs, played around a bit longer.
Yep, great.
I still had no idea what I wanted to do. So when I did get more into that thought, I really couldn't think about going back into corporate. I had a great career. I was headhunted several times to start divisions in insurance companies. We were selling insurance products through direct response marketing. And back in those days, that was just mail, snail mail. And then, of course, along came telemarketing. So all of those experiences I took with me. So I figured that I'd consult, and that's what I could do. I had a great reputation. I had a network, and I knew that corporations were, sending people out the revolving door. That wasn't a very good idea. So anybody out there who's, if you're a service-based type of person, consulting is a very long process to get a gig. And if you're like me, I had determined the couple of things. I wanted to work from home, which I've done for nearly 30 years now. Right. I wanted to choose who I worked with and where and when, all of that flexibility, that was prime for me. At the time, I had a few grandchildren. Now I've got 9 of them. Wow, and my 2 children are very productive. So I must have done something right as a parental role model.
I'm sure.
And, so there's lots of things that we want to have in our life. And what I talk to other people about is, when you've got the opportunity to start your own business, why is it that we sometimes, like I did, go down a rabbit hole? And most of that is because we don't know any better. And we're inventing ourselves. And right here, right now, with this big C virus going around the world, there are lots of people in this situation. So I think what I'm sharing today, hopefully, will resonate and give people the inspiration, the hope, the courage that you too can reinvent yourself. Here we are online. Podcasting has been around for quite some time. I've been raising my hand to talk on podcasts because I want to reach the audience that most needs to hear me. So same for the people listening. People need to hear what you have to say. Your story is important.
Absolutely.
So back to my story, I eventually figured out that I was not having the right business model. It was exhausting, continually trying to get a gig, and I got some good roles, but then I had to resource them, had to deliver the program, and then I had to start all over again. So I was looking for someone else to give me some guidance, I suppose. So luck happened for me. I found somebody, and I went to the States. I jumped on a plane, and several times I went and did some training. First of all, for my own self, for my own business, and then I got certified in processes that I knew I could absolutely make the biggest difference to so many people like myself. And one of those eventually led to the money mindset. So besides all the marketing acumen that I had and all the coaching training that I had, I learned how to help service-based people model their business and put their branding themselves out there first and foremost, capture their ideal clients, start with the problem that those people had and build their services around the solution to solve those problems. I did it for myself. That's why I knew it worked, because I had begun then to attract people who were saying, how are you doing what you're doing, and how can you help me do something like that? So that's what everyone needs to think about. What is it that you can do? If it needs to be reinventing yourself right now or just pivoting your business to a different market, there's lots and lots of opportunities out there. So people are a little bit, freaked out basically, and there's lots of reasons why anxiety levels are sky high. And I think we need to just come back and look at the positives. Every cloud does have a silver lining, and
Definitely.
this too will pass.
Definitely.
So that's how I looked at it when I got retrenched. I went, oh, bring it on. What can I do?
More golf.
And then, more golf. And well, that's out of the question now as well. So I'll be, just having practice swings at the range perhaps. And but, keeping active, obviously, because I think that's what we just need to find another way to do what is important to us through this period.
Definitely. And, but I really, what you're saying really rings true to me. And I've seen even the response from a lot of businesses and colleagues in this time is that everybody's digging deep and they're being more and more creative and innovative. Yeah. And all of a sudden, all these new lines of services and lines of offerings have emerged that we didn't think about before because we've been forced to think about them. So
or take what you're doing now and put it online.
Absolutely.
Like those of us who've been using online for quite some time now are familiar, but it doesn't take long to learn. And if you don't know, find somebody who does that specifically. That's their real sweet spot for what they do, and get them on your team.
Absolutely.
This is one of the things I learned. Pay now or pay later. The longer you wait to get yourself the right people around you and the right tools and resources and processes, and get your ducks lined up and really foundationally have a solid basis to go forward and bring in the clients.
Absolutely. And I'm a big believer in collaboration as well. I think collaborating is so synergistic. And Kathleen and I both belong to a fantastic business network called BX. Yeah. And BX is amazing for collaborating and finding like-minded people that you can work with and bounce ideas off and learn from. And, whether it's a networking group or some other, collaboration is key to getting ahead as well. We can't do everything ourselves, and we don't live in a silo.
And oddly enough, we don't know everything.
That's right, 100%. But what I want to chat today...
I was going to say, the thing is, our clients don't need to know everything that we know, and we don't have to be the one to solve all of their needs, which is why collaborating with what we think of as referral partners, who else has got your ideal client in a group already doing things with them that you don't do, but they need done. So therefore you are, looking after your clients' needs more fully, but you're not doing every bit of what it is that they need. So, 100%. Some people might want to think about that now. Who can they reach out to and collaborate and find how they can resource and help people with the combination of the things that they do.
Absolutely. So everybody in BX out there, there's a little plug for you.
Well, we were used to be meeting in the room, weren't we? We had breakfast
That's
meetings.
right. Now we
online,
do.
and we bring our own brekkie, and
100%.
we're doing exactly the same agenda we would have done. But I still can't wait to get back in the room and give you a big hug, all right?
That's true. I'm looking forward to it. But what I want to chat today, Kathleen, is I know you've got a wealth of knowledge with regards to all this kind of stuff, but I want to take a little niche from your expertise and skill set, a little slice, and I want to talk about how you price yourself, because that alone is a huge conundrum for a lot of people, including myself. And I'm always changing my way of thinking. So what I wanted to ask you is, before we even get into the hows, is how does what we charge reflect on the service or product we give?
Oh, I like that question. And that actually, it can be answered in a number of ways. And I might do that. I might give you two different responses to that. Because bottom line, what we're prepared to hold our hand out for and accept in payment for what it is that we do is largely driven on our innermost self-worth.
Right. Yep.
And particularly for women business owners, we haven't had money or control of money for very long. Just go back a couple of generations and women didn't even go to work, let alone have their own income, let alone have control over their finances. So they are very deep-seated responses, triggers, if you like, that come up. Now, some guys have it as well, and that's true because I call them heart-centered guys, because they have that concept as well. They want to bring themselves to their business, and it's very important and key to them. So charging what you're worth, when self-worth is driven by your really low-bedded beliefs. So that's the first point, is to actually realize that, that some 5-year-old kid running your business, running amok, and they're in charge of the cash register. So that's the first thing. We just need to understand that we need to get beyond our inherited beliefs. And they go back generations.
It boils down to self-esteem in a way as well.
Self-esteem is a very important part. It's like a confidence thing, but self-worth is on a slightly different level. It's actually worthiness.
Gotcha.
Being unworthy.
Okay.
Women have not been held in great worth for a long time. So this is why I talk to it in this way, more specifically for women. But, guys are very much in the frame. They, on the other hand, have had to go out, suit up, be whatever their business, corporate, whatever, expectations to be, not themselves. So when it comes to being themselves, they often struggle to think, well, who is that? And then back comes those things. Well, if I can't hide behind this facade and I have to be open-hearted and be like that, and it's people thinking that they need to be like what their clients want them to be. And that's true, because your clients want you to be yourself. But we've been raised to face up to not be ourselves, but to represent some other brand or entity or whatever it is. So you can see that both of those things are opposing each other.
Absolutely.
So the worthiness is that one. The other one about, just generally charging what you're worth. A lot of people start out in business, they look around and they look what other people are charging, and they go straight up. Oh, they've got letters after their name. They've been doing it much longer than I have. They've got a bricks and mortar business with a shingle out the front. They've got, you name it. They've got everything that you haven't got.
They've got the car with a logo on the side, number plate.
And here you are, Johnny come lately type thing. How could you possibly think that your worth is anywhere near their worth? So let me tell you, most people are undercharging. So everyone who starts out and does this comparison about what everybody else is doing is already looking at people who are undercharging for the value they deliver, because they're doing the same thing. They've gone out and started and done whatever, and except for the really, very specific specialists, and I'm not saying that, there's not a place for people to obviously differentiate their pricing, but most of the time it's people looking like for like and then giving credence to what everybody else is doing, and all the reasons why they're worth it and they're not. So that's the other part of it. It's all mindset. Then, of course, there's actually what you're doing. And I would say to people, if you're concerned about your value, that's because you're looking internally and you're questioning and you're finding lots of ways to berate yourself, like, we hit ourselves over with a, brickbat type thing. And we're often self-talking in a very negative way, finding all sorts of reasons to justify not being worthy. So my advice there is just turn your vision out. Look at the person who's in front of you, whether it's virtually like us now or we're in the same room, having a conversation with that person. Look at them and think, hand on heart, are you the person who that person needs right now to do the thing they need to move them forward? And if as I say, hand on heart, that that's you, and that if they don't hire you, and let's face it, if they don't hire you, they're going to go away with their problem. Yep. And you've done them a great disservice. So the best thing you can do is get them to sign up or enroll with you and fix their problem. So if you can have that view and turn it externally and say, once I've fixed that problem for that person, what will that mean for them? Where will that get them on their life's journey or their next part of their business, or whatever that is for that person in front of you? That is priceless, and they have it right here, right now. All you have to do is hold out your hand for the money, get going and fix that person's problem. That's what it's worth. It's worth it to them. So it's more important for them to see and you to explain why it makes sense for them to engage with you to fix their problem. The pricing isn't the issue. It's never the issue. It's the uncertainty from them, because you're projecting it. Am I good enough? Am I good enough? Should they have to, or will they pay me? What will they do? Blah, blah, blah. And they are picking up all of that because of your uncertainty. So the thing is, that you're really good at what you do. I hope. Else, don't do it. Do something else. and that's the point. When you really, really know that if that person doesn't work with you, they're going to stay in their mud or get befuddled and, go behind and do all the rest. And sometimes that's just heartbreaking because you knew that you could have fixed it. So it's all about, too much inward looking. That's from the mindset.
So then it's more about you knowing that you have the skills and experience to solve that problem. And then once you communicate that, they're happy, they want to engage. But then the next step is when they start saying, how much does it cost? What do you do now?
You charge. Sometimes that's the first step. Yeah. If somebody starts asking how much do you charge, they're likely not going to make a great client. And my tip here is don't answer that question because it's a trap. You do need to answer it, but not right now, because most of the time, so they'll say, and how much do you charge? And you'll blurt out, because a lot of people, unfortunately, and here's another tip, still charge by the hour. Don't charge by the hour. If you are selling your time and people are buying your time, where did that come from? It came from professionals, like doctors and solicitors and, lawyers, accountants, turning on the meter every time you talked to them, and it went tick, 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 and they charged you by the minute, let alone the hour.
Yeah, right. Taxi drivers charge you by the kilometre.
Exactly. And it's per the whatever. So what that does, of course, is that it's a total nonsense to buy somebody's time, but that's one of the things we've inherited if we don't look at the better way of doing business. So if you don't sell your time, you can't be shopped around. Gotcha. Like you can't go, and how much do you charge, and hang up, and how much do you charge and hang up? If you are doing that, you can be shopped around. And that means that people are going to be pricing the value on how long it takes you to do something, for starters, and working it out with buying your time.
Yep.
So I'd say to you here, okay, if we were together and I said to you, okay, you're going to come and visit with me and we're going to coach for, 1 hour every week and, over my 6-month program.
Yep.
Or I pulled out my magic wand and I tapped you on the head and said, you're cured. What is worth more money?
The cure. All I want is the cure.
Instant. We all want it now.
Yeah.
So the quicker you can do things for your clients, the more valuable you are. So that's another mindset.
Oh, I like that.
Please remember that.
This is almost the converse of what we normally think.
The converse of what we normally do. So that what we normally do, 1, open ourselves to be shopped around. 2, have to spend a lot of time doing something we really could do much more efficiently.
Yeah.
And 3, it keeps us from serving more clients who are having to wait for us to faff around.
I love it.
Getting things organised in a way. So often the selling of the time, it definitely limits your income. And the other thing that limits income is being known as a generalist. So when people say, oh, and can you do this for me? And you go, yeah, because you could, and as I say, those of us who've been around the block a few times, we can do a lot of stuff. We did a lot of stuff. 1, it's exhausting. 2, it takes you away from what you're really gifted and skilled at, and it diminishes your ability to be seen as an expert. Right. You're just a generalist, like a general doctor, GP, versus a specialist doctor. And we already know who gets to charge higher fees. That's where you need to be positioned as the specialist.
Yeah. So if we take that even further and someone says to me, all right, what do you charge? And I say, all right, before we get down that path, let's just have a chat. What do you need? What am I solving for you, et cetera, et cetera. This is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to do it. This is how long it's going to take. At some point, I'm going to have to say, this is the cost to you. How do I communicate that?
Okay, a couple of things. So Darren, first of all, it's not a cost.
Okay.
You're in business. It's an investment for your client.
Yep.
Okay. Not a cost.
No cost.
Words are really important because we understand them from our own language, and they can really put the wrong message out there. Yeah. So particularly when clients are buying from you, they are investing through you to get what they need. True. So once again, what is the problem of charging that client at an expert level? So changing what it is, like you were talking about features there. So in marketing, we talk about benefits.
Definitely. People
don't want to know the features necessarily until they're really into it. They do want to know what's in it for me. Yep. And that's that WIFM radio station. What's in it for me?
What am I going to gain from this experience? What do I get out of it?
Why would I pay for anything if it's nothing there for me? So first thing, it flags down the people who listen up to what you're saying because there's something here for me. So that's that radio station we're all tuned into all day, every day. Otherwise we go bats listening to everything. Yep. So there's just something that sparks. And sometimes you've probably had this scenario, you'll talk to somebody and they'll go, you're talking my talk, you understand me. So we have to understand our client really, really well. What's their absolute pain? And we have to be able to, unfortunately, stick some salt on it and rub it in and make them really feel their pain, because people don't necessarily want to move. Some people will put up with an amazing amount of pain rather than go the other, cure. So
we call that inertia. That's inertia, yeah?
It's more than inertia, it's avoidance. They just happy, just happy to stay in their mud because they're not in enough pain yet. And you can only just inch them more closely to the fact that you know, they are in pain and that they could do something about it. So some people are never going to buy, but that's okay.
Yep.
The people who are listening to you because you're now talking their talk with the solution, they're going to say, I'm having a conversation with a potential client. Rarely, no, if ever, do I raise the pricing.
Right.
We'll have a conversation. They'll understand what the issues are and how far away they are from the solution, and they'll understand how I do what I do and whether I could be part of that solution or not. That's part of the conversation. It is a sales conversation. So I'm as keen to interview them to see whether they're a good fit for me as in the reverse. And when we know that we're a good fit, the next thing that comes from them is, okay, so can you tell me how you work and what are your charges, or however they want to ask, you know? That's my invitation to share that with them. If they don't ask, there's nothing to have a discussion about because they're not interested, pretty much. So it's just a natural thing. You do it yourself when you go, you know, we all spend money, we're all consumers, and whatever we're buying is to meet a certain need. And having that need met is what we will invest in, and it needs to be a priority. So unless it's a priority for your client, it's something they could live without, basically, then it's pretty hard to persuade them to any purchase. So how do you persuade them that they can't live without what it is that you could do for them? That's where you need to talk about now. Darren, you're a photographer, yeah?
Yep, that's right.
Yep. So you could say, I take images, you know, when I sell them at, you know, so much per image, and it's all about, you know, how long it takes and what we do. And, you know, we all love our processes. And that's another tip. Don't bang on about your processes because the client isn't listening for that.
That's right.
They need to know that when they need to know if they need the outcome that you get for them.
That's right.
You're doing photography. So what does it mean for your clients to have the images that you produce? Now, I'm just going to use a couple of examples because perhaps there's some other people who have this similar business or something that equates. You could do baby photos, you know, you could do corporate headshots, you could do weddings. So all of those are still images, but the end client, and I would suggest that even you have a real focus on your ideal client and the sorts of images that you like to do and the places you like to be and the people that you like to be with. So you're going to turn up and deliver your services, so you better like it. If you don't like screaming babies, don't do baby photography.
Don't go there.
So as much as they're, you know, cute and whatever else, you know, same as you might, you know, animal photography. But if you're not into animals, you know, kids and animals are going to be hard work. So once you've, you know, once you've sorted that out, what do you do then to convince them about you taking a photo or someone else taking a photo? Because as far as the client's concerned, you've got a camera and you're going to take an image and they're going to get a picture. But what are they really going to get?
Gotcha.
So,
So I hear. So, for example, again, what you were mentioning, there are different streams of photography. For example, so if I was taking a corporate headshot for somebody, I am helping them achieve career progression or get that dream job or whatever.
Yes, if it's that, and also you might be doing that under the request of their management. So they're wanting all of their, you know, leaders to have an image. So it's all about branding.
Yes.
So if you're talking to somebody about, you know, looking good in a, you know, in a headshot, what does that do about branding? Yes. So if you can persuade a company that every image of their personnel goes out into the marketplace as part of the brand of that company, then they better sharpen them up. They better get them to look like real people and be doing real things, and, you know. Yeah. So you see what I'm saying? So if you're having that sort of conversation to a corporate that, you know, you've got 50 executives and they all need a personal brand beneath the corporate brand. So how can we create, especially in this era of social media, How can we create images that present your company as, and you need to have done some background about their marketing.
Definitely.
So that you're talking their talk, they can see that, wow, this guy gets us. We're not just going to get a pretty picture of the 50 people. We are going to get some really significant branding elements that we can show the world about the sorts of people who are part of our company. Now, how is that conversation going to go in respect to somebody else who's just selling their time and a number of images, and we'll book this time and off you go, and I'll flick the images back to you. So what's the difference between those conversations?
Very different. So what I'm hearing from you is that you know what you want to charge, what you need to charge, but it's about going through that journey with the client, that discovery journey, and then at the end of the journey, the value is so top of mind and so prominent that you can say anything and they'll say, perfect. That's perfect.
That they want that bigger outcome. So why are they doing it in the first place? They're not just wanting a picture of everybody's head. It's the outcome that they want, and that's where the sales conversation has to go. What are they going to get out of it, and why you over anybody else? And they're going to do that in your scenario because you are understanding and conversing with them about branding and about how they will be perceived out in the marketplace, and why that is in essence worth having a range of photographs, not just a headshot, that they can use right throughout their marketing, that constantly keeps their brand in front of their online platforms, wherever else it's going to be used. So different to the person who's going to literally tell them how many images they'll get for how much money they're going to put in.
Perfect. Otherwise, it's just, we're talking about pure commodity. That's just a commodity.
That's it. That's commodifying the whole thing. And you do not want that. You want them to go, wow, this guy's like a genius. He's going to give us the ability at a low investment. When you put it into marketing terms, instead of buying a bunch of images, they're buying their branding images that will do them for the next 6 months, 12 months, whatever. How can you compare that? So you want to be not comparable. If you're comparable to somebody else in any shape or form, how much do you charge? And they'll shop you around.
100%.
Yeah.
So
when you're talking totally different, you've got to speak their language and you've got to talk to their outcome.
Absolutely. So once they trust you to give them what they want, that conversation almost takes care of itself.
And then, of course, you've got the evidence, because when you've got 1, 2, 3 and more clients where you've actually done this for them, and you get them giving you a glowing testimonial, and then you've also got the evidence that goes into your reel, and people can go, I get it. I get it. It's not just a bunch of, faces. There's something really meaningful here. So, taking it outside of your profession, and mine for that matter, particularly in service-based businesses. So if you're selling products, there's it's more complicated in the
trickier, isn't it?
Pricing, because there are fixed costs. It's usually you're either importing or manufacturing or storing, warehousing, shipping. There's all sorts of things. But for services, pretty much they're not tangible.
They're intangible in a way. They
intangible, exactly. So people find it hard then to grasp. Remember, my corporate history is in selling life insurance. Hello. And that is selling peace of mind. That was what we were selling. So we knew that people who are going to buy life insurance were buying peace of mind, not a piece of paper, and not necessarily just the amount of money, but knowing that if something happened to them, they left behind the money for whomever to continue without them. So the whole sale was around there, not about all the features of the insurance policy,
and whether you can exercise within 1 month or 2 months, or pause the policy, or all irrelevant.
It was peace of mind. That was the sale. So what everyone needs to think about is, what do I deliver in the way I do my services? What is the outcome for the client? What do they get as a result of investing with me? Then what's it worth is a whole different conversation.
Gotcha.
And I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
And any company can do this. Any company can do this. So I work with my clients after they've done branding and niching, you know, choosing a niche and being very specific to get known as that expert in the thing that you do. People panic about being the expert, but I'm not saying you're the expert at everything. You're an expert at the thing you do for that group of people.
Exactly.
So calm down. You can claim your expertise, because experts get to charge more. Absolutely. And I tell you what, when people start paying you more, up goes your self-worth and up go your prices in correlation. You know, increase your self-worth to increase your net worth. That's how I think.
And also, if I can add, and if I can add, up goes the care you put into it and the soul you put into it, because you're already putting you're perceiving it yourself at the higher level. You do a better job.
You are spot on with that. Absolutely spot on with that, Darren, because it's I mean, we already do a good job. We know that. We already, those of us who are, you know, passionate about our business and we're wedded to it, basically, we know we already do that. But sure, when you start raising your prices, you lift your game. And even if it's that 1% more that you're doing each time, you will lift your game, because you want to keep feeling worthy to be charging higher prices.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it.
So
I love it.
So here we have got these services. Okay, so how do we, ask people to invest in what it is, that outcome that they want? We can do it at different levels. Example, airlines, most of which are grounded right now, unfortunately, but when they all take off again, you can get on at the pointy end of the plane or you can get on at the tail and you will go up maybe 2 different staircases. You might get to those, 1 on a red carpet and 2 on the tiles. You will get on the same plane, same pilot, same, same, but a different experience. So some people are more than happy to pay 5 times the price for that experience versus that one. They are. We know this already to be true. So we have all these different classes in going on a plane. The same air going around inside. You might get your grog for free and you might get a better quality of an in-flight meal if you're desperately hungry. It's still going from A to B and you're getting on with them and you're getting off with them.
Yep, absolutely.
People are willing to pay. One, they just want the top of everything. Doesn't matter what it is, that they're just going to be at the front of the queue and so on and so forth. And also it's about some people have a need to be seen as, a big spender basically, or a, high roller.
They want VIP check-in so they can walk past everybody in the line and wave.
Yeah. Or jump the queue things, or they just genuinely like to reward themselves, and I'm all for that. So I'm not knocking getting on the front of the plane versus the back. I'm simply using it as an example that people are still paying for an outcome to fly from here to there, and yet what's the difference in that pricing? So how have they been doing that for all those years? That's the experience.
Yes.
So back to branding, your brand should be the promise of the experience that your clients get when they engage with you and your company. Perfect. That's it. That's your brand. And you need to live up to that brand. So if you want to be charging what you're worth and continually increasing your value, therefore your pricing, and the experience your clients get. So it's the experience that people will pay for.
Definitely.
And they're looking for a match. When we're working, and you especially in what you're doing too, if you're not on the same wavelength as your client, it's hard work. Definitely. And I, for one, don't want to drag people. I don't. I just go, I'm a really fast worker and I'll go as fast as you like, but I won't drag you. So if you're ready to rock and roll, get on the starting block and off we'll go. But I won't drag you. So I'm really clear up front of who I can and can't work with. And I know the outcomes I get, and I know that my processes and my systems, that's the other thing. We need to have these proven steps. I call it signature system. that you take your clients through to get that outcome, so they can actually see. So it's almost like it's a blueprint or whatever you want to call it. It's a way to go from here to there, and you're the expert of helping people do that.
Gotcha.
Bottom line, that's it. Then you have to, take your clients through that process. Some people think it's oh no, it's different, it's organic, it's different every time. Well, I challenge you, whomever's listening and watching, I challenge you to think if that's really true. We pretty much have a way of doing things, even if we've not documented it and written it down.
100%.
So I help people do all that. So we end up with all of that resources. If somebody wanted to do branding with me, I pick up my branding book, their book. It's a workshop, and we go through that whole process. It's fascinating. I work with archetypes. I help people understand themselves archetypally, and it's always different how it comes out. But people then love their brand because it's come from the inside out. But it's a process.
Gotcha. And actually, a quick question on that. Before you mentioned obviously you try not to talk about the process too early when you talk about what you're selling or how you got to solve a problem or whatever you're going to do for somebody. Do you show them that process before you start going further down the track and the price comes up, or have you already agreed on that before you start the process?
It's sort of the process itself, the step by step, doesn't necessarily even come up to the detail of it. It's just that there is one.
Okay. Right.
People need that they feel confident, and so can you, that you've got a process and it's something you're expert at doing and getting the outcomes that people are investing with you for. So what the conversation is more about, and questions are the answer. You need to ask. So if people say to me, oh, and how much do you charge? I should answer that question. I didn't earlier. And they say, how much do you charge? And I say, I'm very happy to answer that question. However, do you mind if I ask you a few questions first?
Love it.
No one says no.
Love it.
Or yes, they all say, no, go ahead. No one says, yes, I mind.
Yep.
Obviously, the end of conversation. So that's the first thing is, okay, there is going to be a conversation about the investment for you. However, I need to know a few things first.
Yep.
And then I will explore that. So I will be talking along the lines of, I need to understand exactly what your problem is. And I need you to understand how I work, what I do, and how I get results for my clients. Because if you don't have the problem I solve, we don't need to go any further. Is that okay?
Perfect.
So yes, everybody's nodding.
Yes.
So of course it's okay. It's a normal conversation. And that's what a sales conversation should be. It should be a discovery of whether there are gaps and where people are to where they want to be. Conversation, if I'm having it, is sort of, what have you done to date? I need to know if they've attempted things that didn't work. Yep. I like to say I will work with startups, but I also like to work with people who've got a few bruises.
Yep.
Because they understand that they haven't been doing certain things correctly, else we wouldn't be having the conversation. But they need to understand it at a level as to how differently they could do things to get a different outcome. Gotcha. So that it is a discovery session. It's about exploratory, and I'm really just wanting to know. So we are basically getting the chance to understand each other, where we both come from, and all sorts of things. So whether we're a match, that's the main thing. Because if we're not a match, then they are somebody else's client, and I will, very happily introduce them to somebody who's more likely to do them a service than I would. So I won't take on a client just because they're going to pay me money. And some people have done that, and definitely 99.9% of the time regretted it.
Yes.
Because at some level they knew they shouldn't have done it.
Happened to me.
Especially when we start out, we think, and I have to say too, for the people, hopefully, that you've been earning money and you know what that's like. But when I went from my corporate position, and the very first time somebody paid me, my company, directly, I just looked at that and I went, wow, I have a license to print money. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
I don't have to rely on anybody else to pay me.
Yep.
I've got a license to print my own money. And that was like life-changing. And I just wanted to get better and better at it.
Love it. That's brilliant. And so, Kathleen, what do you specialize in particular? Any particular group or type of business or demographic, or just want to get a sense for people as well?
Yeah, no, that's a fair enough question as well, especially in marketing, because a lot of people think about obviously the ideal client within the niche. Yes. So when it comes to niche, and I market to women business owners,
okay,
service-based businesses, perfect, and I say heart-centered service-based women business owners and enlightened men.
Lovely.
So, the enlightened guys, they go, what about me? I want some of that. Yeah. And I have male clients because of that, because they want to show up in their business, love what they do, and get well paid for it. So they're not excluded, but I am marketing expert, and I know that we have to be really focused on our prime target market. And I think women in particular need more help with claiming their worth and charging what they're worth. So hence that. And of course, there's a lot of women starting businesses prior to this coronavirus whipping around the world. Yes. Women were going into self-employment, creating their own industry, business, whatever, in droves. It's been a worldwide phenomenon. Can't say that word. So I know that that's somebody I can relate to. But I also know that the guys who get this, they want to go out and earn their income loving what they do as well. So that's my prime market. Within there, those women with service-based businesses, they might be, especially if they're a consultant, we need to change that model quick smart. You're better off not consulting. That's like the never-ending story, and you hardly ever get paid.
Because consulting is all about paying for your time. Charging for your time.
And it's all about, let me come and see whether you've got a problem that I can fix, basically. I go the other way. I've got the solution to the problem you've got. Yes. So let's talk about the investment. Different conversation.
Love it.
And a much shorter one, and you'll get paid more often. So that's the first thing about the market. But then it also comes to language. So we want our ideal client to feel like you're talking to that one them, yes, just them. And when you have that language, everybody who is just like them, your ideal client, perfect, are going to listen up. So that's why it's so very important to be authentic, is why I start with branding. If you don't know yourself and where you, what's so much part of you that you don't have to work at it, yep, that's what and who you want to be. Yep. Once again, you are then going to be attracting the people because you're talking their language, and they will self-select. They will actually be what we call a hand raiser, and if they're any part way interested in what you're saying, they will want to know more. And if they're not, that's great. The more you can turn away the people who are not your potential market, the better off for them, because they've got to find who is, and the better off for you, because you don't want to waste your time with somebody who's never going to love what you do, the way you do it, and all the rest. So that's what we really should be looking at. Gotcha. And Darren, can I say too, yes, I really want people to understand, it's a conversation I've had with people recently, we don't need that many clients. Yep. We don't. And people have this view that if they feel like they've got to keep marketing and dragging all these people toward them and all this stuff, that's exhausting. It sounds so hard. And we make it hard because we've never got a fixed idea about what we're really after. Yeah. And look, you could get, one client a month, depending on what you're charging, and that's enough. Yeah. So that's the other thing for people to get into perspective. Not only what you charge, but how many of those people at that investment do you really need? And then how much time are you really going to take to be able to accommodate those people? And the quicker, the better. Time's money.
And it all ties into the same thing, because the more clients you work with, the more you're spread around, the less quality you can give.
Absolutely.
All kind of keeps coming back to the same thing. It's all
Yeah.
about self-worth
Yeah.
and what is your value and how can you communicate that so that people will say, yes, you're the one for me, and done. It's a perfect match.
Yeah. And that part of it is benefits, benefits, benefits.
Benefits.
Marketing 101, it's never been any different,
Not
but people
features,
aren't,
but benefits.
yeah, features and benefits, but people aren't set up to think about it in those terms when they're thinking marketing. Most people are selling.
Yep.
They are not positioned in the marketplace. Hence, it's hard to sell and have that sales conversation, because why should somebody deal with you over anybody else that has not been established?
Yep.
And that becomes a long-winded conversation because people aren't sure. So you really do need to be positioned first in the marketplace, and then to get positioned, you need to know all those steps before you can go out there and start marketing. But people think marketing is advertising on Facebook, or they think it's advertising for starters, and then they look at the medium or the channel, or wherever they are putting out their messages, and ask anybody what they're doing with their marketing. Yep. And they'll talk straight about the do bit. They're doing Facebook, or they're doing Instagram, or they're whatever they're saying. But what are they saying?
That's right. Yeah. It's more about, everybody forgets about branding. Really, marketing is an execution of branding rather than sales.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's always been sales and marketing. It should be marketing and sales.
Definitely, I agree. The more I work and the more I learn about this stuff,
yeah,
I'm so passionate about marketing, because I always say, with marketing, people come to you. With selling, you have to go to them. Isn't it much nicer for people to come to you?
Yeah. So we talk about, push and pull marketing,
yeah.
And both of those still sound exhausting to me. I like attracting. And that's it. If you can just attract the people, and they will be attracted to you. Just believe in that you are the solution that most people suffering that problem they have need. You are that solution. Yeah. Just get out of your own road, get on and roll them, because they're waiting for you to, I say, get your marketing act together.
100%. I love it. I love it. Brilliant. Well, Kathleen, I think that was absolutely sensational. There's a lot of incredible insights for people there. And we've really dived into the psychology of engaging with customers, marketing, branding, the sales conversation, how much you charge, self-worth. We've really dived in deep in this podcast. So hopefully everybody can get a lot of good stuff out of it. But if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Okay, so how about we give them my website link, because that would be a good place to start. I've got a few videos on there actually, so if you have a look at those, you get a bit of an idea about some of my services. And there's under services, there's a little pull down menu, and I'd be really happy if anybody wants to have 30 minutes one-on-one with me. We'll be either on Zoom or the phone, and we will have a discovery session about where they are and where they want to be, and obviously whether or not I'm a good match for them to get them along on their journey.
Beautiful.
So I think that would be the place. So they could go to powerupyourmarketing.com and pull down the services tag and have a look. There'll be marketing, there'll be money in marketing, whichever sort of combination you're looking for, and we'll have that chat and see whether I can help you on your journey.
Beautiful. And I'm going to put the link to that 30-minute discovery conversation in the show notes as well for everybody. So feel free to have a look. And anything that you wanted to leave us before we finish up?
Just that there is a worldwide opportunity. So wherever you are in the world, you can be delivering services that don't need to be done in person, and you can start attracting clients who will work with you in the situation that you set up. All you need to do is get yourself set up, ready to rock and roll, and just get out there and make a difference to all those people that you most want to work with, and get well paid while you're at it.
Love it. Absolutely. And in this time right now, there is so much innovation and use of technology that really the sky is the limit, more so than ever before, because the mindset is open.
Yeah, for sure. And how many clients do you really need? Please take that on. Now you've got the whole world possibly, and you only need a few clients.
That's right. Perfect.
Really?
Well, you've inspired me.
Good.
And I really appreciate you coming on the show. It was fantastic.
And I want to say I'm very pleased and humbled to be able to be one of your guests, Darren, and to you know, just share out whatever we can. And I truly hope that if just one thing got taken away from what I said today by the people listening, then I will feel that I've done my job. Thank you so much.
Well, I'm sure that there's more than one thing, and I've already got about 10. So your job is already done. So thank you again. Thanks so much, Kathleen.
Thanks to everybody. Bye for now.
My pleasure. And for everybody else out there, that'll be the end of this show, but we'll be back very, very soon. And I thank Kathleen once again for her fantastic insight. And we'll see everybody in the next show.